can have them as my mentors in those areas as well. I would just like to open up as a question. Do any of you guys have any such mentors in your life that you find to be really helpful that you are in contact with? If anyone wants to share. Mhm.
Yeah, I'll share. So I have a mentor who's so I'm part of a club I'm at university. It's like a medical club. There's a person who's an alumni advisor, like he university, but he's like staying back to help lead the club, and he's definitely a mentor of mine. Like it's cool because he's already been a student, and he's also more advanced than me in like the domain of the club. So he's it's really great to talk to him and get all kinds of advice. Really look up to him.
Yeah, I think I also have very similar mentors. Every year before I go into a new school year, I always have a list of all people that I know that took the courses that I'm going to take for next year. And I call a lot of them and I ask them for advice and how they were able to be successful in the classes that I'm taking. So, does anyone else have anything to share?
Yeah, that made me think of like in many ways, like a lot of uh kind of because like I kind of spent a lot of time on YouTube like in the past years, and I'm pretty sure like yeah, like having like certain people that have had like a continuous following and like getting inspiration from has been like the mentor, and like one of them was the Swim channel. It's like dedicated to like gamer community called Healthy Gamer. So, and the person who leads that, everybody calls him Dr. K. That's part of my like people I look up to.
Yeah, mentors can even be, as you said, people that you don't even know personally, but people that are inspirational figures online. You can definitely, there's a wealth of knowledge online of so many different kinds of mentors that you can find. Yeah. Anyone else?
A lot of my friends are my mentors, especially my older friends. I really look up to them and I also like ask them for advice really often. And they always end up giving me like proper advice. And I just really appreciate that. So
Okay, I think yeah, I definitely related to a lot of your guys' mentor examples. And so I found this quote that I'd like to read, and I'll just read it out loud. It says, okay, a mentor is like a sea captain who has crossed the ocean many times and who can help others do it too. A mentor brings out the best in us by giving us encouragement and corrections. And so from this quote, I really liked how it says, a sea captain who has crossed the ocean many times and can help others do it too. Because really, how do you know who can be qualified as a mentor in a certain area of your life? There's another analogy I've heard once is if there's two blind people in a maze and they're not able to see, they can, give each other moral support. They can hold on to each other, talk to each other, and help each other. But really, they're both stuck. They're really just there because they both have not actually crossed the maze yet. But a mentor is someone who has this outside vision that is not short-sighted because they've actually traversed this path before. And that's why I just really like this quote. Does anyone else have any reflections from this quote?
I actually really like that quote and the last part you said about how the mentor has already taken that path before. And yeah, I just really like that last part.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Like, I think it's easy when you think about like a concrete example. Like, let's say you want to learn to drive a car. you wouldn't go to someone who's never driven a car before. It wouldn't be like, hey, like, can you just like explain to me like theoretically what you think a car's like driving a car is like they would just either hopefully they tell you that they're not qualified to teach you, but worse, they might lie to you and just give you bad information. So like it's really on you to discern if they're qualified to teach you or not. Like obviously you'd want to go to someone who not only knows how to drive, but like who has some expertise in it.
Yeah, I definitely really like that example. I've also heard this analogy that's not used in the same context, but I think it still applies, that if you want to learn how to swim, you can't learn how to swim just by reading a book. Like theoretically, these are the motions you're supposed to do. You actually need someone there that can help you and push you inside and be there to support you while you're learning for the first time. Okay, thank you guys so much for your reflections on this. And I'd just like to read one more quote that I found. This quote is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Our chief want in life is somebody who will make us do what we can." And I've seen that a lot of times in my life. There's been so many times where there's something that I think I should probably be doing, and I probably also have the capability to do it, but sometimes I'm not motivated enough to do it by myself. And I need that extra push from other people, especially a mentor, one who has already traversed this path himself or herself. Does anyone have any thoughts on this idea of having someone to push you to do things that you might otherwise not do? Yeah.
I think you definitely need someone who will make you do stuff, not make you, but encourage you to do things that you wouldn't do by yourself. Mainly because you wouldn't do it without that person asking you to do it. And so you never know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. And you always have to try, right? So I think that's really important.
Yes, exactly. I think this also relates to something that we've brought up before in some of our programs, that sometimes just knowing what the correct thing to do isn't enough to make you actually do it. Having a mentor and resources to help you along the way is really extremely beneficial. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. I was thinking about, I was just like the quote was saying to do what you can, and how I think a lot of us, at least I myself, I don't often know what I actually can do. Like I have this kind of limited view of what's possible for me because I tend to get down on myself. And having mentors who not only can see from like an outside perspective and like more objectively look at me, but then also since they have that expertise, they know what's along the path. Like it's so much better for them to guide me, because then I'll not only do things that I already know I can do better, but then I might not even know what I'm going to be able to do, and like I'm open to new possibilities as well.
Wow. Yeah, I love the points you just made. And that also someone outside looking at you objectively, because internally we might be so biased in so many ways because we're looking at ourselves from our own point of view, but someone else looking at us in an unbiased way can really open our eyes. So anyone else? Okay. So I just like to also think about, so we've already seen, like, and also in previous programs, what are all these amazing qualities of great mentors. But sometimes I've seen that I have also revealed some things to certain people that I thought should be mentors, but really they were not great mentors. And I probably should not have revealed such things to them. And how do we actually identify who is really a good mentor? So really someone that is a mentor is someone that you can inquire confidentially and also reveal confidentially, so that you have that bond of trust that's established as the foundation for such a relationship. Because without that kind of relationship, and if you just talk about surface level things, then their mentor can't really help you in any way. But of course, this also presents somewhat of a risk because you're revealing so much about yourself. And if it's not the right person, then you might feel bad that, oh, wow, I said so many things and I didn't really get anything out of it. So now all of that is out there. And if someone is a mentor, then that person would be explaining, and then you would be learning from that person. But how do you know if what the person is actually explaining to you is even correct? What are the qualifications of such a person? So if you think about it, if the person that you're revealing confidentially to and asking so many questions from, and you say, oh, I have this issue in my life and I would like some advice. If that person is very callous in nature and just says, oh, there's like everyone else pretty much experiences the same issue, so it's not that big of a deal. Or even worse, I've experienced worse things in my life and I've been doing fine. Then that is not at all helpful. And that person really should not be your mentor at all. Even worse, if that person does not actually maintain confidentiality and then says, oh, the issue you talked about yesterday, I actually asked all of my friends about this to give you advice without asking you first. And here's what I think you should do instead. Although that might seem like the person's trying to help, the person didn't understand that you actually gave your trust to maintain confidentiality. So does anyone have any thoughts on these kinds of people or any experiences you've had?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so just thinking about people that you're trying to consider as mentors and people that you put your trust in. But then such people might not always be the best kinds of people. They might not actually try to help your issue, or they might not be emotionally, able enough to actually not be callous. And they're basically, what I'm saying is, if someone is not actually trying to help you because they're just considering your issue and diminishing your issue, then these kinds of people are not to be mentors at all. And if have had any experiences with that, yeah.
Oh yeah, lots of times in the past, like, if I'm like, I don't know, I'm sharing like confidential information with someone, and then like a few like months later or even days later, I'm like, I overshared that and it didn't work out in my favor many times. So yeah, that's just one thing.
Yeah, that's an issue I've seen a lot, is that if someone isn't, if I think someone is good, but not good enough to where I can say everything, then I'd rather not say anything at all. Because if I'm just talking surface level, then I won't have any solutions or actually receive any help for any issue that I'm facing. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have something. So one thing I kind of want to add, like a different angle, is that I've also been that person. And that really sucks. Like there have been times when I've either overestimated my knowledge or understanding and given advice when it wasn't my place. That's pretty common. Or I will misjudge and like kind of like what Anushu was saying, like give the wrong information to someone.
Yeah, I think I also have probably done that before. I mean, I think if someone has asked me ever for advice, sometimes I always go into like immediately, let's find a solution to your issue. Even though that might not always be what the person is looking for. And so something that I've also had to learn is that solution can come later, but right now this person is not looking for a solution right now. They're just looking for just someone to talk to, really. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
I think I've also, I'm sorry, I think I've also been that person who would kind of ask other people for how I should give advice to this person. Um, I think I did that once, and looking back, I really shouldn't have done that, because that person came to me in like confidence, like expecting me to just try and give them the best advice that I can give and not tell the whole world their issues. So yeah, I just lesson learned never to do that again.
Yeah, even if it might seem that you're doing this for the this person's interest, you also you have to keep the person that you're trying to help in mind as their first priority, not to try to make yourself look good. That, oh, I want to give you, I want to give you advice because I want to look good, because I want to give you great advice. You think that I'm really helpful. Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on now. I loved all your guys' points, and we'll continue this discussion.
Yay. Thank you so much for the points about mentor relationship. And as said in the last program, I think Nick was saying that we need to have a rainbow of relationships, like we have a rainbow diet. And so another relationship that you can also have is the relationship of a peer and someone equal, that's someone on the same level as you. And usually when people start to get older, they start spending more time with the people more their age than their families, I've heard. And at this time, healthy peer relationships or friendships become vital because we start associating with them a lot more. And I saw this chart, I'll just screen share it actually. And it said, um, okay, it was like personal characteristics influence your friend selection, and then the friends influence your personal characteristics. So it's kind of like a cycle and it keeps going on. So this is why peer relationships are very important to keep healthy. And like I said before, peer relationships you can often relate more because they have the same experiences. And so to keep these relationships healthy, it should be duplicitous and not diplomatic, like just using the other person. You can't be double faced or deceitful. And to keep it healthy, each side should support the other and encourage them. Each side also cares about what you would say and would want to hear from you and would want to know what you're feeling. And it's also very normal to have disagreements in healthy peer relationships, but it's important that you resolve your issues openly instead of just ignoring the other person or ghosting them. And oftentimes you'll have to compromise in these type of relationships, but it should be equal and not just one-sided, like one side of the relationship is doing all the work. And in the relationship, it should make you feel good about who you are and not like toxic relationships when they push you to do things that you're uncomfortable doing and make you feel bad about it. So there should be no negative peer pressure. And so in high quality friendships, it involves not only companionship but also caring, validation, support. And in addition to playing together, good friends feel comfortable opening up to each other and are motivated to resolve conflicts. And I was just gonna screen share a video that is related to peer relationships, and I'll just do that right now. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so that was just a little video displaying some type of pure relationship. And I just wanted to ask, what qualities do you look for when you have a good friendship, or if you are having a developing friendship, which type of qualities do you usually look for that you value the most?
I think I could see in the video how caring the main character was, like when seeing the other birds in the rain. And I think, yeah, that's definitely a great quality to have in a pure relationship, to understand others' suffering and to act accordingly. So.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, one thing I liked about the video was that the bird helped the mouse basically live his dream, where the mouse always wanted to fly, and then it was because of their relationship that they could kind of like, or the bird could like lift him up and like literally lift him up and and help him out, like give him what he wanted out of life too.
Yeah, yeah, that was a really nice part of the video that I saw too. Um, yeah, yeah, one example from my personal life is, at the beginning of the pandemic, there was lots of challenges because everything was so new, and I was like overcome by emotion because I don't know, just lots of things were happening at once. But what helped me a lot was I stayed in touch with healthy relationship friends and peers, and they really helped because throughout they were being supportive and non-judgmental, lots of sharing and listening, and they were always there to listen. And this actually leads us into our next point by Avantika Sharma. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Yeah, so like Anishi was mentioning, we just learned a lot about different types of relationships. And in each relationship we form, there is a certain amount of maintenance, or I wouldn't say maintenance, but more about a way that we can strengthen each of our relationships. And today I'm going to be sharing a few that originate from the Vedic literatures. And we may think they're outdated, but after I share them, you'll probably realize their relevance today. So the first two that I'm going to start off with are revealing your mind and confidence, or inquiring confidentially. So, like Anushree mentioned, being able to openly share your thoughts and feelings with someone is one of the most liberating and one of the best feelings you can have. Knowing that someone won't judge you for your shortcomings and are there just to uplift you can make you feel very safe and eager to share. And oftentimes, when you have such a figure in your life, you ask them questions, or in terms of the literatures, inquire confidentially, and you're able to take advice and suggestions from them to apply in your own life. One thing that I have personally observed is that it's very important to choose the right person to open up to, because not everyone is that person who won't judge you, or they may not accept you as who you are. And I kind of learned that the hard way while growing up, about who it's okay to open up to and who it isn't. But over time, luckily, now I'm in a place where I only surround myself with people who make me feel supported and appreciated. So, just like putting the mic over to you guys, does anyone have an experience they want to share about opening and sharing to the right people? Either a situation that went really well where you felt very like safe, loved, and appreciated, or one where you realized that you shouldn't have shared with someone.
I definitely have a situation where that happened. I was talking to one of my friends, and I kind of opened up. I like kind of opened up to them about something I was insecure about. And they kind of just like dismissed it. They were kind of like, "Why are you like there's that's not an insecurity. There's no reason to be insecure about like that. Like you that's not like that shouldn't even be like insecurity. Like I it's not like a real thing." And I was like, "Okay." But I it was kind of just like sad because someone just like discredited it's something that I didn't like. I was confident enough to tell them that I didn't feel confident about this part of me, and then they're kind of just like, "What is that?" And I just never confided in this person again. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's really important to be with people who don't invalidate your feelings just because they may feel a different way. Jessica, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, really good question. My story is a little bit more positive. That I think with some of my volunteering activities that I was doing, I was getting a little bit, kind of overwhelmed and, feeling a lot of pressure and, feeling that anxiety to be like, oh, like, am I doing this right or whatnot? And I spoke to one of my mentors, and, she assured me that, everything I'm doing is, I'm doing my best. And if I do need to take like a step back with some of my volunteer activities, it will actually be a really good idea because that will actually free me up and actually gain a bigger perspective and really appreciation of the opportunities that I've had over the years, or, especially with a lot of my services or activities that I participate in. So it was actually me being very authentic of telling her, expressing to her how I feel, and her kind of mentoring me or helping me or just kind of reminding me like a pat on the back. So good question.
Yeah, that's really reassuring. Anyone else want to share? I can share one in the meantime if like no one else wants to share right now. I remember one situation I was in where I was telling as like a new friend of mine about something personal in my life. And like the next day, I went back and two other people asked me about that personal situation. And then I just realized that I shared with the wrong person. But yeah, so that was one of like my eye-opening experiences, just to be like aware of who you share with. Yeah. Yeah, that's the good reaction. Thanks, guys.
That reminds me of situations I've had where it's been the opposite, where it's like a new person And like sometimes I'll share something that I've like processed, like it's something that might be a little traumatic or a little some people might see it as like a bad thing or like a personal or what have you, but like I'm cool with it about my past. That with someone just to see their reaction, like and like I know I love myself, so whatever they're gonna say isn't gonna like change my view of how I see myself. But exactly, I test the waters, right, Sorby? So like if they react positively, I'm like, cool, this person's deep, they're willing to hold space and like have conversations like this. But if not, then I'm like, oh, okay, nice to meet you, see you later. Like
Yeah, wait, I totally relate with that. Just testing the waters, starting off tiny just to see if it's something where you feel safe in, because oftentimes going in with like a full force could easily backfire on you. Okay, if no one else wants to share, I'll just continue to the next one. So the next like set is of like ways to have personal interactions and exchanges with others is giving gifts and receiving gifts. And personally, when I first read about this, I was kind of confused because I always thought that like all like we have like the importance of gifts in a relationship could have been overrated because it's not required to buy someone something from the store and give it to them in order to like maintain a relationship. But just to expand a little more, I went on the Merriam-Webster dictionary and actually searched up the definition of a gift. And it says it's, one second. Okay, it's something given voluntarily without a payment in return. And once you really think about it, things that are without a payment in return are so much more than just tangible gifts that you could like purchase at Target or Walmart. And it even includes a small favor, a thoughtful message. All of that is encapsulated and included under a gift. And the more important thing is that it's done with the attitude of giving and not with the expectation of return, or else it becomes like a sort of transactional relationship. I know when I was younger, where I'd get someone like something for their birthday and then they didn't get me something on my birthday, and I was like, fine, I won't get you anything next year, because I thought that it had to like even out. But the actual like mantra behind giving is that you're not expecting anything in return. And truly, I think it is the best, like they are the best gifts, the ones that aren't tangible, like more than the expensive gifts. I think Bharat mentioned this in one of our previous sessions, but he was talking about how Bharat was mentioning that like usually he got like a bunch of gifts, but he would remember the ones, he would remember the gifts that like were in cards versus like regular gifts. And the next section is about gifts, but this one is specifically about food. And one thing I learned is that food cooked with good intention can actually encapsulate and maintain that same nourishment. So if you're eating food from someone who has like negative intentions or harmful emotions towards you, some cultures actually believe that that same energy will be transferred towards you. Yeah, so cooking with love is really important. And I saw this one thing on Facebook about this person's mother-in-law who really didn't like them, and they were eating her food and they realized that like they were suddenly being built up with so much harmful emotions. And that could be a stretch, but that just kind of relates to how like the food you eat is really important where it comes from, and to make sure that like intention is in the right place. And going a little more on about food, sharing foods is actually a really special way to like share your culture or share your background with people, because it's made with your hard work versus like other gifts you could just like, as I mentioned, you could just like buy it from Target. But if you share foods that you've cooked yourself with your own love, it can often be a lot more appreciated. Yeah, so does anyone have anything they want to share about gifts?
I guess I want to like ask, because I've definitely had like such an experience, like many experiences where like even if the person who's cooking, like I know they're not such an amazing cook, even if I know that they've cooked for me with love, like the food tastes better. The food is nourishing. The food is wholesome. And actually, I actually went out to take my dad out for some brunch, and I went to a restaurant and I didn't really like the food there. Like, yeah, the food was really tasty, but like I feel like I have a stomach ache. I feel like I don't like the food. Like, has anyone else had that experience that, the food that's like cooked with someone who hasn't like doesn't know you, doesn't like you? It feels a little impersonal in some ways. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like the same nourishment and doesn't make you feel as like whole on the inside. Like it can satisfy your tongue, I guess, but I totally relate to that.
Yeah, totally.
Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say I can especially relate about the like food that's cooked impersonally doesn't taste as good. Like especially at like nicer places, like kind of bougie
Yeah.
restaurants. Like, yeah, it's like cooked masterfully, and like the presentation's really good,
Yeah,
and has all the correct spices or whatever. But like, it's there's something missing.
there is. I don't know. Maybe we're thinking too much about it, but it does feel like that. Like there, like, yeah. And I think Avantika, you were mentioning this. Like, as soon as you eat it, like it's out. Like there's no more like good, nourishing, wholesome part.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like relationship. Yeah.
Jessica, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think exactly what you guys said. When somebody is cooking with you, and even though they're not the best chef, but they cook with so much love, I'm very fortunate that I have, been able to cook for some of the best cooks that actually cook for the big festival of India, like 40,000 plates. I've been lucky to cook for those devotees that actually cook, and they really love what they cook for me, and I'm just like, wow, because you can really see how much focus and love you cook with. And then I think your first question when you were saying that, have you ever received a gift that you absolutely loved? My birthday was recently, and people ask like, "Oh, what do you want for birthday?" And I said, just good quality time with people, right? So it's not always these big gifts that you need, and these purses and all this other stuff, but good quality time, because as we said, time is the most precious thing in the world. So anybody that can give you any amount of their time, that is worth anything else. And I really do love these two questions. And I always say, like, I love my mom's cooking, not because she's the best chef, but because she's so attentive when she's cooking, especially for my nephews. When she cooks for my nephews, there's like a extra love in it, I can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, in the chat we got Anjika said, my mom always mentions to never cook food when you're angry or it'll seep into the food. I've heard that before as well. And Nick said, it's like how everyone's grandma is the best cook in their opinion. I actually had a quick story I wanted to share from that about how even Jessica was talking about how their mom, like everyone thinks like their mom's like their mom's food is the most like nourishing. So the other day I went to one of my friends' house and we were playing this card game called We're Not Really Strangers. I don't know if any of you have played that before. And one of the questions was, if you could only eat one meal as your last meal, what meal would it be? And so we started going around the table and everyone named like these really extravagant foods, like their favorite food from a restaurant, etc. And then one of the girls said, I would eat dal and rice, like my mom's dal and rice. And if any of you guys don't know what dal is, just like lentil soup, and it's like an Indian classic like meal. And after she said that, everyone like quickly changed their mind and said, yeah, I'd like take that same like my mom's classic food because that's the one that like feels the most nourishing at heart. Yeah. Anjika. Okay. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything they want to share?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I was I was gonna say I like the when you searched up also for the receiving and giving gifts. When you searched up the definition, it doesn't have to be always like Walmart or Target bought like gifts, tangible gifts that you were saying. And I like that because a lot of times I feel like, yeah, these gifts are nice that are like costly and like from shops, but also I value the ones that are like handwritten notes and like just like quality time, like Jessica said. So yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, definitely. I also really when you know how when people like travel for a long time and then they're like, I can't wait for like a home cooked meal from like from just like my whole family. And I really resonate with that because like after like a very big trip, I just want to go home and eat my mom's food because it's always like she always somehow is able to cook it without getting angry or just like cook it with love. And it's like it really makes a difference. And yeah. And also kind of to add on to Anushi's point when she said that a gift doesn't have to be like from like it just doesn't have to be like a really good gift. Like anything like meaningful I really like gifts that are like meaningful and just have some like emotional value. Like a traffic cone sometimes has emotional value. So like it's just like yeah, those gifts are really sweet as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you wanted to share? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah. So I was just thinking of one example from just my life is one of my grandmas. Whenever I go to her house and we eat food, she makes there's this Indian food called a roti, which is kind of like a tortilla, so it's circular in shape. And whenever she makes them, somehow, like and almost all of them, they have like very large holes in the middle, which I don't know how that happens, but like they always have really large holes. But even then, I don't even notice it, and I still eat it, and it tastes good. But if I were to go to a restaurant or something and they gave me that, I would have been like, "What is this? Like, you can't cook." But when it's someone that's actually giving it with love, then it's completely different. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, I think that's all we have for my point. We can return back to you then.
all right then. Thank you guys so much for joining today. I think we ended slightly early, but I definitely found this program to be quite helpful. And we can just end with, if any of you would take away one thing from today's program, what would that be as our last question?
Anshu's grandma makes rotis with holes in them. No, not like that. Not that. I'll let everyone else go. Maybe it's that when in a relationship, it's not really what we give that matters, it's how we give it. So even if I give like the simplest thing in the world, if there is some nice intention behind it, then the giving is successful and the receiving is successful. The chat is just filling up with messages about different types of rotis. So we have to have everyone eat your grandma's rotis now. I'm sure you have to arrange for that.
Yeah, you guys can all go fly over there. Yeah. Does anyone else have any realizations or one thing you would take away?
Can I popcorn next?
Yeah, I have one thing. Okay. So yeah, I think one thing that's been present throughout the entire conversation is that relationships are a two-way street, and that if equal regardless, there's something that we have to put into the relationship too, and that it's important to figure out what that role is so we can play it to get the most out of the relationship.
Yeah, I think I think you guys definitely took out how you should also be in relationships, even though, we were focused on like what kind of different relationships there are. I'm really loving how you guys are trying to improve yourselves from this topic. So anyone else?
Something I was just thinking about too was, yeah, and in when you are in those relationships, it's really interesting to learn more and more about the person and kind of find out what they specifically need. And I really like what Jessica mentioned a while ago about like having to spend like quality time, and that's ultimately like the best gift that you can have. For me, if you were my friend, and yeah, and ultimately like maybe some people would actually want like those physical like gifts, and others would like want like spending quality time is enough. And yeah, it's really interesting how you can find, yeah, what you can bring to the relationship through like cultivating it and getting to know them too. So.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I took away as well, is really the quality of time. And even if you're giving gifts, it's the intention behind it that really matters more than anything else. Yeah. I think we can have one more, maybe. Yeah. Or if everyone wants to go, that's fine too. We have lots of time, but yeah. Okay, then. I think, okay, that's okay. I'd like to thank you guys all for joining today's program. I definitely loved it very much. If you also liked it, could you give a reaction? Nice. Okay. Other people liked it too. Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. So I think our next program is going to be at the same time, same day next week. If you have any questions, you can email us at hi@spiritualyouthcircle.com. I'll just put that in the chat. And if you also want more information, oh, Surabhi, do you have a question?
Can I mention something after you're done? I just want to ask a question.
Yeah, you can go ahead right now. Or
Okay, so next week, the university team is planning on doing a class on the Avengers, some lessons from the Avengers. So I want to ask, how many of you guys have watched the Avengers before? Can I get some reactions? Okay, so Jeremiah, both hands up for Jessica. Okay. What about Anjika and Advika? Have you guys watched it? All right, well, I see most people have watched it, so I'm glad to hear that. So it will be relatable. Well, we're trying to go out of the box here.
Maybe
all right, okay.
Maybe if anybody wants to rewatch it, just to bring some points, only if you have time. Again, I don't need a reason to rewatch the Avengers. Like, that's my most favorite movie. But I will encourage you to watch it again.
Do it for spirituality. You have an excuse. All right, I'm glad to hear that. So we have a good audience for next week. Thank you so much. And you can go ahead.
well, yeah, I think that's going to be very exciting having a class on Avengers. I actually have not seen Avengers yet, but I can read a summary or something on Wikipedia. Yeah, okay. So thank you guys so much for joining. And if you have any questions, you can email us hi@spiritualyouthcircle.com. For more information, you can go to www.spiritualyouthcircle.com. And if you haven't already, we actually do have Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to look us up on those and follow us. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining today, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.